Hey. Sorry, I was insanely busy yesterday doing home repairs and all sorts of stuff. This is also tax time. Thankfully, the government's already robbed me blind, so I've already paid my taxes for this year. That's why I'm broke. I don't know if people have taken, and if you're in Europe or Canada, obviously you're Southeast Asia, you're not watching this. Texas is generally a warm place. It does get cold, but there's a lot of lessons to be taken away from Texas. There's a lot of stuff that's not being reported on the news. However, you can find it with a simple search on Bing or on a Google search bar. Here's something that's happened, and people need to take a lesson away from this. And if they don't, I see people all the time. Like it blows my mind that people are not prepared for eventualities that always do come by. It really does blow my mind. People think that's living in fear, and that is an incredibly stupid belief to have. That's like saying having car insurance or wearing a seatbelt or having a fire extinguisher is living in fear. It's like, no, it's actually common sense, because poop happens and you have to be prepared. Anyway, this is not about Texas's power grid, but a decent amount of people died and froze to death, and Texas relied too heavily on wind and solar, and the solar, and especially the windmills, the wind power generators, they froze up. What happened? You could look this up once again. It's all over the place. However, the news is not reporting on it, conventional news. Is that people in Texas, it's a company called Griddy, and there's some other ones too, Griddy, kind of a dumb name, normally charge $50 per kilowatt hour of electricity. 50. But for the week plus, when the power was out, they were charged, instead of $50 a kilowatt hour, they were charged over $9,000. There's all sorts of endless reports of people that got $17,000, $12,000, $20,000 charged for 1 week's worth of power, or less than 1 week's worth of power. And to make it even worse, when people are locked up and unable to work and all this other garbage that's going on, if this isn't a conspiracy, then nothing is. People had signed up for the power grid to automatically withdraw what they owed to the power company out of their bank. So people that thought they were comfortable with $10,000, $20,000 in their bank, they woke up one morning and it was all gone, because the power company charged from $50 per kilowatt hour to $9,000. What percentage increase is that? That's extremely criminal. Unbelievable. I want to make mention of something that happened a few years ago in California. Nobody really knows this. This is the inside info, and this is not conspiracy or anything. This is fact. California had rolling blackouts years ago. It was actually caused by traders increasing the price per megawatt and sticking it to the state and the people of California. But what you didn't hear that story at all. The fact is that the storm caused people to use more electricity than normal, but that's not what caused the actual blackouts, the rolling blackouts in California for 37 plus hours. The energy company sold surplus electricity to the market, then realized they were going to run short of electricity, but they didn't want to buy the resource back, because when they knew they needed to buy the resource back, it was too high. So they shut the power off for 37 hours, and massive amounts of homes, the pipes burst, and people froze to death. It's because the energy company didn't want to buy the power back at the increased price. My cabin in the woods, if I could do this with a silly little cabin in the woods, it makes no sense that other people can't do it too. I have a gasoline generator. I have multiple solar panels. I have a propane stove, and I have a wood stove. The wood stove heats all the food and it keeps the cabin warm. Gasoline generator. I got an enormous 1,000-watt power inverter I'm going to take down there the next time I go. I have these giant golf cart batteries, which I'll probably make a video about soon. They're 150 amp hour bats. A pair of those and another pair of 115 amp hour bats. Propane is the feeds the stove, but can also keep you warm. Propane is endlessly useful. Remember when Katrina happened, and I know there was oil and gas products in the waters, but there was still water that wasn't actually polluted with gasoline, and because that takes a very, very special piece of equipment to filter out. It blows my mind that people, when something happens or they think something's going to happen, they go out and buy bottled water. It's so incredibly dumb. Everybody should have a professional water filter. Like a Katadyn pocket filter, which is what Navy SEALs and Delta Force actually use. True story. Or at least a pure hiker filter. It's PUR. It's called a hiker. It's like $60. Everybody should have that in their house. If you go somewhere or the water gets spoiled, I mean, you could go out into a creek or a muddy puddle. I mean, you could get water from virtually anywhere. There are certain instances where if it's polluted with really nasty stuff like gasoline or petroleum products, the filter will not work on that. But 99.9% of dirty water laying in any puddle anywhere, you can get pure water, pure drinking water. People should not have been freezing to death in Texas. I mean, they should not have been. Sorry, I'm about to sneeze. Sorry about that. I had a sandwich laced with too much pepper. It's a turkey sandwich I made. Put a bunch of pepper on there. The fact that these beautiful young children were freezing to death. People live this come what may attitude. They don't prepare for anything. And it's just not right. Everybody should take a lesson from what happened in Texas. I know if you probably didn't hear about what happened in Texas if you live in California or Southeast Asia or Europe. And you could talk about the failed infrastructure of the energy grid there and how it was too much reliance upon solar and wind, which is not really any use when an ice storm blizzard hits. And obviously storms like that are relatively kind of rare, especially down that far south. But everybody, I have a go bag. I have, other than dropping dead, which, there's some things you can't prepare for. Other than dropping dead or something, aliens landing or something, everybody should be prepared for any and all contingencies. And to me, and people that I know that think like that, everybody else is just literally insane. I mean, they are. It's really, really quite senseless not to think like that. So, I'd like to make a follow-up video on this and suggest some things, especially in these times, about being prepared. I've always lived with that mentality. Always, my entire life. Doesn't make me a prepper. Prepper has the connotation of some sort of doomsdayer, that the Chicken Little, the sky's falling, and, I'm going to bury myself in a hole in the ground with a bunch of canned beans and, wait for society to collapse. At least people like that are prepared, but, that's the negative connotation of being a prepper. I'm not that. So, I know that crap happens and people should always be prepared for contingencies. Take a lesson away from Texas, okay? Everybody should always have at least a month and a half of non-perishable food, on and on and on. I'd like to make some suggestions in the video after this about stuff, considering what's going on in the world. And anyway, thanks for watching. Goodbye.